what is it? I think it's this is on the cheap end. It's like $1,200.
That's a lot of fucking money.
The cheap end.
Yeah.
Like the dollar store end.
Really?
My friend has a lens that's $2,800.
Why even buy one that's $2,800?
It's I'm trying to think of what I could relate this to you with. It's kind of like, I guess it would be like if you were to get like $100 surfboard compared to like a $2,000 surfboard. Like, you don't necessarily need it, but it just has so many like little things about it that are so much better, you know, that like when you have like in today's technology, like that camera is really nice, right? Mm-hmm. So your quality control and like basically what you're going to get out of something is so much better than anything ever was in the past. Mm-hmm. So if you have like that lens is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. If you compared that lens to anything like 10, 15 years ago, it would be like out of this world.
Yeah.
You know? So if you get a $2,000 set of glass, basically, if you think about a lens like that, it's just, even if it's 15% better, mm-hmm. that's such a huge leap. You know what I mean? It's like how well it focuses, how well it deals with contrast. So like the lighting in the room, the way it's bouncing off of us, the shadows and stuff, it won't be so harsh. It'll make things smoother. Like there's just like a lot to it. So like when you watch more famous podcasters, their quality looks phenomenal. Like you can damn near see the pores in their face and everything's like perfect, which you can with this too. It gives you that like, oh, this person has a really nice setup.
I think this lens was like $300.
Probably. A $300 this is the thing about photography is like, or like anything with a camera, videography, is like lenses. I mean, I get why, but like a $300 lens is like, it's nothing, sadly.
Like, it feels like it's something.
No, the kit lenses they're fine, but it's just like thinking about what purely when it comes to, like for this it's fine, but just talking about like me doing photography and I started doing some videos and stuff like that, and I'm like, the quality difference you see in lenses is insane.
And I'm happy you brought that up. I really am, because you know how you gave me that example, you're like, this compared to 15 years ago, mm-hmm. out of this fucking world. So when Hunter was on, we dove a little bit off the diving board into magic talk. And you said you watched Hunter's shit, so you heard some of the things. Hunter's instructions for me to you was to present the same exact argument that I gave to him. He was like, exactly what you just said, just say all of that shit to Mark. So pretty much what I was saying is, it started off randomly. I was like, dude, like, have you heard of like David Blaine? Like I just watched a YouTube video the other day and his mouth was sewn shut and
I was dying.
He like spit a frog out of it. And then Hunter was like, oh, like funny. Like I get it. It's a joke. And then I was dead serious. And I kept going and I was like, no. Like there's this one video and he's in front of like the LA Lakers team and like LeBron James and shit. I don't know. And like these famous people, and he would have them pick a card, put it back in the deck, and then he would take their wristwatch off and it would be folded up underneath their wristwatch. And then pretty much Hunter was like, yeah, dude, that's manipulation. Like there's somebody from the crowd's in on it type shit. And I was just like, dude, if that's the truth, I'm so thoroughly disappointed in society. Because like a famous basketball player that's like rich already, they're just one of the last people I would expect to like fake a magic trick with David Blaine. If you were like, oh no, that guy down on the fucking street did it, it's like, okay, that's one thing. But like when you start involving people like fucking like big, like why would they feel the need to like lie? Like I saw this shit and I was like, dude, this is fucking crazy. And then Hunter was just giving me hella shit, hella fucking shit, and I was like, Hunter, like, it boils down to, and then like one of my like counter examples, I was like, Hunter, like everyone believes in dinosaurs, that's magic. Like there's T-Rex teeth this big. That's fucked up.
I just found a new, the Megalodon? Have you
Yeah.
heard of those? I just found the snake version. I think it's called the Titan boa. It was like 44 feet long.
Are you fucking...
And like 1,200 pounds.
Are you serious?
Like would barely fit in this garage. But yeah, I get what you mean. And I think studying that stuff for so long, and I used to be like super into it. Like that's all I would practice. Like I was always practicing card tricks. I'd always practice stuff. I can't do really anything anymore because it's been 6 years, But I would say there's a few things I've picked up on. That there's some general rules to like reality, like there's certain things you can't do. Like there's certain things that just aren't possible with like what we're given, if this makes sense. Like I can't just like without anything, no strings, no nothing, I can't just be like levitate. Like that's not possible. Like I can't just have water start coming out of the cup. So when you see things like that, you have to ask the question, this is happening, so why is this possible? Because whatever's happening, whatever I'm seeing, that's the trick in my head. This is not actually true, except for David Blaine sometimes. Certain things about David Blaine, not that he does magic, but I was telling Hunter actually on the way here because I was talking to him.
Shut the front door.
So, do you want me to kind of like, I don't know like how much you care about it, but like do you want me to like tell you how stuff is done, or like tell you like, because I don't want it to be like then you're like, okay, well this is all lame because now I know how all this stuff works.
Dude, I want to know everything, and
okay.
You're a great person to do this because you've talked about magic forever.
Yeah,
And
I don't know, like there's a lot of stuff I see that I'm like I can't even begin to understand how that works, but the one thing I can say is, especially David Blaine, is he in some ways is kind of a psychopath. He has done things where he's like stayed in a pillar of ice for like, I think it was like 2 weeks or something like that, and he just is there. Like he's been buried alive for days, if not weeks. Like he's done things that it's like his amount of dedication to the craft that he's chosen is much more than most people's. And so when you see things like this guy sewed his mouth shut and then spit out a frog, when you look at that, your first like inclination is being like, how did he do that? This has to be a trick, right? But then you go back and you look at the other things he's done. He has stood on like a giant pillar for like 48 hours that he couldn't move on, and he just stood there. And he's flown in the air hanging onto a bunch of balloons. And he's had to learn breathing techniques so that way he wouldn't pass out and die. And he had to grab the parachute. He had a little like device, and he had to pull the parachute down because he didn't want to do it with the parachute because he felt like it was cheating. So he pulled it down on this thing, and he had to put this, he had to put it on while he's in like thousands of feet up in the air, where we should have passed out. Like we would pass out if we were that high up, but he has such a good control over his breathing that he fixed it. So when you think about those things that he's done, you go back and you're like, okay, well he sewed his mouth shut and he spit out a frog. So you want to ask, where's the trick? There's no trick. He literally sewed his mouth shut. I watched that video after I watched your podcast, and I've seen it before, but he actually does that. He literally sews his mouth shut and then spits out a frog. Like there's no trick there.
Did you tell that to Hunter?
Yeah.
Because Hunter was almost like mocking me. I was like, Hunter, like, what about like the aliens and shit? And Hunter's like, bro, this guy's on fucking crack. You know what I mean? But that shit's got to be real. How do you do the wristwatch one? So where he pulls out the card that was just put in the deck.
So the wristwatch one is basically, there's different ways to do it, but normally what people do is you have someone pick a card, and when you're good enough with cards, you can put a card wherever you want it. So what he did was he took the card, he put it most likely on the top, and then there's a little trick you can do that allows you to very quickly fold a card. And there's a little split second where when he like readjusts someone's hand, if you rewatch certain clips, you'll see him grab their hand, and as he grabs their hand in that motion, he'll slide it under their watch. But they won't feel it, but it's so fast and it's so smooth that he folds the card. He literally just folds the card and puts it under their watch, and he does it like so smooth and disconnects himself from them, so it seems like he was never really in their space. And then he's like, okay, well, where'd your card go? Oh, it's check your watch.
So it's not magic, it's more of a trick.
It's magic in some ways that people have become so good at something that there's no they just don't mess up, but the trick itself is finding ways to take your expectations of life and make you completely rethink them, and it's like, how can I do this in a trick that, like, it's with anything. Like, if somebody didn't know how to use a camera and you're like, oh, like, this is how you use the settings, like, that's a whole new world to them, They'd have to learn all the settings just to take a proper picture or set up for a video or set up lights like this, So it's the same with magic. If you learn the little, like, fundamentals, then all the tricks start to make sense, because you're like, well, he couldn't have possibly done this any other way. So this is the only way he could have done it,
Okay, and then what about the ones where it's like he's doing like street magic, and he'll like someone will like think of a color, and there will be like a crowd, and then he'll be like, okay, whisper it into one of their ears, and then like, the lady like whispers it into like her friend's ear, and she's thinking of like magenta or some shit, like a random ass color, and no one could ever guess it. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna make it appear on the wall, and then the color appears on the fucking wall. That's magic, right?
So this one's gonna kind of mess with your brain a little bit, and I saw that, and I kind of like reviewed all of the.
You watched this one?
Well, I watched all of them because I wanted to see, like, I wanted to make sure I could answer exactly the ones you wanted to know, because I've been out of it for so long. I can't just be like, oh, that's how he does it, because I've kind of forgotten a lot, but. That one is going to blow your mind, because there's a part of us that, like, we're very perceptive creatures, but we don't always realize what we're seeing. So, like, certain things influence us all day long, right? We see ads. Like, we see things that are like, oh, man, those shoes, I really want those shoes, and you have no idea why. It's because you've seen a commercial, or you've seen an ad, or you've heard somebody talk about them, So, scary enough, it's the same exact principle. As he's talking to these people, he's influencing them to think of that color. So he's forcing them to think of that color, because because if you think about it, like I said in the beginning, certain things are impossible, right? Like, if I were to just be like, think of a color, and I've never been in here before, ever, and I was like, that color can't appear. Like, unless I was literally doing magic, it can't. So then you have to rewind and be like, how is this possible? Which means he had to have set it up before. Which means then you have two explanations. He either knows the person and it's a setup, which is not David Blaine, because why would you do the stunts you've done and then hire people? Yeah. So then you say, okay, well, then it was already on the wall. And then you go back to, well, if it's already on the wall, how did he get her to think of it? And then you go back to the mentalist side, and you realize, like, people, you can plant things in people's brains for them to, they don't even realize it's there. And then they pick up on it later. And that's how he does it. So he'll have, like, the word that he wrote out, or, like, things next to it. So when you're reading it, you're like, oh, like, it's a phrase, like, this is love, but, like, somewhere in there might say, like, blue or something really weird, and, like, you see it everywhere you're going, so they lead you perfectly to see their, like, setup. So that way they're like, oh, there's blue there, blue there, blue there, and then they'll have like a blue watch or like a something like that, and they don't realize it. But then when it comes time to think of the color, that's all they're gonna think of.
Do you know the video I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Like,
I think so at least.
wasn't he just like, yo, pick a fucking color?
Yeah, and the thing about videos like that is they're also, you can't see the before.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of them are like, oh, this is fake, or oh, this was set up. Why did this person already have a magazine or a this or that? And it's like, because they were talking, he was talking to them before the camera started rolling. So it's not that it's a camera trick, but like, say have a trick outside and I'm talking to you right now and I'm like, okay, like I have this trick already set up. I'm like, I'm telling you about this. I'm like, dude, this is really cool trick I know how to do. We need like a lighter and we need whatever the hell that is. Let's go outside. I'll show it to you right now. But if we go out there and then someone starts recording and you have a lighter and whatever the hell that is, everyone's going to be like, oh, it was set up. Like, why would you randomly have a lighter and whatever that is? You know, so that's why sometimes it's not always camera tricks. It's you don't get the whole story.
So you're saying there was a conversation that had to have happened before that?
Yeah, for the most part.
Really?
Except, so there's this guy named Darren Brown. He's kind of like the pretty well-known mentalist, as you would call it. And there's one thing I saw where what he did was he orchestrated a very like organized way of controlling someone's thoughts. And what he did was he took a popular song, I don't remember what it was. He hired people to play it outside. He hired stores to play it in their store. He literally everywhere this one person went, that song was playing, but it was so in the background they didn't think about it. So then like an hour later or 10 minutes later, once he knows that that's the only song she's going to think of, he'll go up to her and be like, hey, I'm Darren Brown, like, nice to meet you, can I show you a trick? You know, so now there's a setup there, and I think it was a lady, and she has no idea that, like, she has zero idea.
She's been getting, like, followed, pretty much.
Yeah, everywhere she's going, she's being manipulated to think of a certain song. So when it comes time to ask her of a certain song from a certain era of a certain genre, she has to think of that song. And he does, like, the craziest stuff. Like, he'll ask people, like, think of an animal. But, like, in his shows, he'll plant stuff on the wall, so when you're walking in the doors, it'll, like, if he asks anyone, they would all think of, like, a rat. Or something like that. Like, he cues everyone in their brain to sit there. And it's actually kind of creepy. Because if anyone can do that, then what do you think people with power could do? Or people that, like, want to? Like, if you go on Instagram and you swipe through your feed, there's a certain algorithm that'll set every few posts, there'll be an ad. And you won't realize it. I think I've actually told you that before. And so every 2 posts, the third post will be an ad. And you'll just be swiping. You won't think about it. And it's all stuff related to you. And you're like, oh, God, I really want these. Like, I've really been wanting this. And you have no idea why. You just think you want it. But you don't at all. You just see it every day.
Yeah. I've noticed the downhill of Instagram and the ads and, like, the whatever the people listening to us, because we'll say something and then in the next 5 minutes it'll be on fucking an advertisement one way or another. Unfortunately,
it's definitely creepy, and
it's just annoying.
Yeah, it feels very invasive. It's like, can I have my own opinions, please?
Yes. Yes. Okay, there was another trick that I saw. And this one was weird. He had all these people, like, go on, like, a calculator on, like, a phone and, like, start typing in all these random digits and, like, multiply and divide and do this and like, add and stuff. So he came up with, like, a 5-digit number, and then he started pulling the cards off the top of the deck or some shit. And then it was, like, let's say the number was 75,682. He was, like, a 7, a 5, a 6. Like, he got 4 out of the 5 right. But, like, how the fuck did he do that?
Yeah, and
that's random. Like, they were passing the phone around, like, typing it in and just, like, multiply it by 333, divide
Yeah.
by 6, add 4. Like, how do you control that in a crowd?
So a lot of times, I don't know how that one's done necessarily, but there's a lot of things that basically in all magic tricks and stuff, the goal is to always make the person seem like nothing is wrong. But a lot of times when I'm saying like add this plus this minus this, you're always going to get the same number. There's certain algorithms, if you want to call it that, or certain ways to set up numbers. So any number I say between 1 and 50 or something like that, or any number I put and then add by 50, minus by 20, divide by this and that, it'll always end up being the same thing no matter what number I put in. So I don't entirely know how that one's done, but it's probably something like that where you think you're given a free choice, but you're not at all.
Really?
Yeah. It's most of the times you see stuff that is very unexplainable. It's because they didn't have a choice, or there's another technique called multiple outs, which is basically if I say I'm like, okay, pick one of these cups, right? And pick one. Like you want this one. So what multiple outs basically states is that by saying picking this one, if this is my target cup, this is the one I want you to pick, cool, I take it. If I wanted you to pick this one, but you picked this one, I'm like, okay, we'll put this one away and we'll use this one. So there's a lot of stuff like that where you think you have a decision, but no matter what you say, I'm going to control it to get the cup I want. Because you have no idea what the actual trick is. You just know I said pick a cup. You have no idea. Like if I said pick a cup to take away, and then you said this one, I took this one, you'd be like, okay, that was weird. But if I just say pick a cup and I don't tell you what I'm doing with it, you don't know that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm always going to end up on whatever cup I want.
The one you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there's stuff like that.
So you're almost kind of saying magic is not real.
It's not real, but I think in some ways there's a quote that's, I don't know the exact quote, but basically what it says is like once technology becomes so advanced that I'm gonna botch this real bad, but basically saying like once technology is so advanced that you don't know what's going on anymore,
Yeah.
that's magic. Once it's indistinguishable from like what you know as being real, that becomes magic. Because if you think about it, in 100 years, what's to stop your phone from being able to click a button and this cup just starts floating?
True.
But if somebody showed that to you right now,
Magic.
you would think it's magic. So magic, if you think about it, is literally just it's just unexplainable events. Like if I clicked my fingers and everything turned off, you would think that's magic.
Yeah.
But what if it's a chip in my finger that when I strike it, it cuts the circuit or something,
Yeah.
So it's like magic is literally, I would say in some ways it's very real. But the definition of magic is where you kind of come into the question because of the like, I'm going to say a spell.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know how I feel about that, but I would say kind of quote unquote magic I think is definitely real, because of speaking of aliens and stuff. What if I was an alien and you had no idea, right?
Yeah.
And I had this crazy technology, but how long have you known me? The last, I don't know, 5-6 years? You would never think of anything. But what if I was analyzing things and constantly gaining data, and one day you saw me get in my car and it flew away?
Yeah.
You'd be like, what the hell did he do? Or like I got in my car and it disappeared. You'd be like, that was magic. But for me, it's just my time, Like Hunter said, if we went back in time with our phones, people would be like, that's magic. Get that away from me. What is that? Why are you talking to your phone, you know? So I think that's a weird question, kind of, because like, yes, it is real, but depending on how you define it.
And it almost sounds like the deeper we progress in technology, the crazier the tricks are going to keep getting. Because eventually you're going to be able to walk through like a fucking portal and like end up on the other side of the room. Some sort of teleportation. And that's going to open up a whole new world.
And people are really creative. Like some of the tricks coming out, like I've seen tricks and I feel like I relatively know a lot because I've studied a lot of it. So I know how a lot of stuff is done. But there's some stuff that even with the questions I've given you saying, like, if this is how this works, like, this is the only possible outcome, there's stuff I've seen that I can't. My brain is not going to figure it out because they found a way around it. You know, they found a way to do something that just doesn't make sense, even if it's the simplest of tricks.
Have you seen the one where there's like a deck of cards in the center of the table and they just start pressing it and it turns into one card?
Oh, yeah. That one, I don't know exactly how that one is done, but there is a trick with cards where if you take them and say you take... Like David Blaine does this trick, kind of one. What he does is he says, basically, pick a suit of the cards, and so they'll say diamonds. So he'll take the cards, and he will basically remove every other card but all of the diamonds. So now all he has is the diamonds left, and say it's like 13 cards, I think it is. What you do is you pinch them, so there's air in between each card, and from the right angle, looking at it from downwards, it looks like it's a full deck. But it's really 13 cards, so when you push it down, all the air goes away, you know, because there's cards that aren't touching. So then it gives the illusion that it's shrinking, and now, oh my god, there's only the diamonds left.
He can take all the other cards out while like talking to you?
Yeah.
How? Sleight of hand, is that really a thing?
Yeah.
And he's just doing it, so like, are they like going up his sleeve and like all over the room and shit? Or,
it's
like...
honestly a lot easier than that. Like, if I were to take, like if this was a deck of cards, and obviously there's more cards down here, if I wanted these and I'm talking to you and I'm like engaging you, what would the idea is that wherever my eyes go is where you're gonna go. That's where your attention is, right? So we're talking right now, you're not looking at my hands. Mm-hmm. So if I'm doing something over here, you might not notice it unless I'm like, you know, but if I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you casually, like doing this, you're not gonna think about my hands.
Yeah.
So when I go like this, it goes down.
Okay. So
then it goes straight to the pocket. But people get so good at it that you just cameras can't even pick it up because they know their angles.
Damn, dude. Yeah. So it really sounds like a very studied practice where you just have to spend hours a day. Like his fingers probably move at a speed that the eye can't see then.
Yeah, and it's just the proficiency. Like I know a trick that I wanted to learn. This guy, I think it took him like 7 years to get down. 7 years? It's a coin trick. It's a vanishing coin. And it took him 7 years of him practicing to the point where he thought he was good enough to sell it. And all the trick is basically he has the coin, and I don't remember exactly how it works, but you basically, like, if you're going like this, you flick it and it'll slide down your hand. But he does it so smooth that it'll have the coin and it's just gone. It's just not there anymore.
And it rolls down.
Yeah.
You gotta balance it and shit.
Yeah, there's like crazy, but it's like, you know, that comes with practice, and it's not only that, you have to know your angles. Because I can show you something and you can't see it from a certain angle.
And there's people that can roll a dice and always roll a 6 every single time, right?
I feel like I don't know too much about that, but I definitely feel like most likely, I know there's fixed die, so when you throw it, it's always going to roll on the same number. But judging what people can do, most likely.
Damn, dude, that's crazy.
It's intense.
One of my last magic questions for you. I remember this one time we were at the B Word's house, and you were like, it was like late. It was some late night.
I think
shit.
I know what you're gonna talk about.
And you were like, one day, Lazer, I'm gonna show you a trick. And we're gonna go to like any store you choose, and you're gonna buy a deck of cards off the wall, and then something about like you're gonna know the card that I pull or something. Like I forgot what it was, but you were like, say you shuffled a deck of cards, showed me the card, say it's a king of clubs or whatever, and then we drive to a store, open up a brand new pack. And then the first card that I pull, it's like a king of clubs or some shit like that. Like do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think so. And basically, back to the principles of like certain things have to happen if you think about it, if we go to the store and we buy a deck of cards, it's basically impossible for the card to be where I need it. There's no possible way one card's going to be flipped upside down, all this stuff. So that basically says the only way this is possible is if I did this myself and then put the deck there and then forced you in some way to pick that deck without you realizing it. So that's how that trick would have went down.
Would you have picked the store, or would I have picked the store?
Most likely.
Me?
No,
or
me.
you? Okay.
I would make you think that, but then you wouldn't have actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know how to do that?
For the most part. Like, I could have done it then. I can't do it now.
Okay. So you would have like opened the deck prior.
Yeah. I'd have to get the deck. There's a way to unseal it and then reseal it without you knowing.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would have done this beforehand.
Yeah, long before. I would have planned it like in a month in advance. Like, I would have had to like plan, like, dude, I love this store. This is like my favorite liquor store. Like, you got to try this liquor store sometime. Like, I go there all the time. I get the best stuff. And just do that for like a month until the point where it's like late at night. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'm freaking thirsty. Like, let's go to the store. You know, something like something crazy like that, where it's like a lot of tricks have really good tricks have a lot of preparation in them,
or even like a year in advance.
Yeah,
really.
Some people can go really crazy, but a lot of the times it's pretty simple. It's just a matter of how good you are at what you're doing. Like,
yeah.
Some people could walk in the room and suggest something to you, and you'll think it in 5 seconds. Like, somebody could say, just be talking casually, but want to plant a certain thing in your head, and then you'll think of it just by saying certain weird words or phrases.
Dude, I'm stoked that you came out on here, Mark, because you are for sure a very interesting person with just like a lot of fucking knowledge, and like, you're very opinionated.
I would say so.
You know what I mean? Like, there's always something going on in your head, I feel like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you're a thinker. You think about a lot of shit. You know what I mean?
I'm pretty restless.
Really?
Yeah. I don't like sleep very well.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you're always thinking?
I would say between that and just like, I just kind of have a restless personality. Like, I just like doing things or learning things. Like, I'm either like practicing something on guitar, or I'm learning something about another hobby. Like, I'm doing so much that I'm juggling so many things that I want to get better at or learn, that like when I lay down at night, I'm like, what can I do? How can I get better at this? Or what can I learn?
Dude, you have a girlfriend?
Yeah.
How long have you guys been dating?
Like 2 years.
2 years? Oh my gosh. I guess it has been that long because like I haven't seen you going on like half a year.
Yeah, and even being that, I have only seen you like a few times since then. Like, in the last 2 years, how many times have I seen you? 5 times at the most.
True.
At the very
true.
most.
Very most, huh? And then like, yeah, before that, it was like, I remember hearing about it. And during that time frame, like, we probably didn't even kick that much, you know?
It's been years since we regularly hung out, since like when we used to work out at your house.
Yeah, that was like 2016, 2017. Before like we moved into SLO.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how is that? Does she lives in the valley, right?
In Bakersfield, yeah.
Okay. Dude, that's crazy, Mark.
Yeah, it's different.
How did you guys at one point like stop talking?
Yeah, we broke up for a little while.
Okay. And then what made you guys get back together?
It was basically me being immature and not ready for a relationship. So I was over it. And then I realized like that wasn't something I wanted to give up because I was being dumb.
Yeah.
You know, like I was never in a relationship before. I didn't know what it meant, you know? I had no idea what it means to have a responsibility to basically attend to another person. Like, you know me. At any point in time, I could just disappear for a month because I want to be to myself.
That's very true.
So then I got to the point where I was working at the gym and I was like talking to tons of people and I was like meeting tons of people and I was like, my girlfriend's two hours away. This is my first relationship. Like, I love the relationship, but I hate this. And I was not enjoying it because, like, it was just a lot of pressure and it was a lot of trying to figure things out. And then I was like, one day I was just like, I can't keep doing this. So then I ended it. And then,
was she like, fuck you, bro?
No, not at all. She kept talking to me.
Like on Snapchat and shit?
Yeah, we didn't talk for a day. Or like 2.
Was she bummed?
Yeah.
Do you think you found your wife?
Definitely.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's the plan. Like,
dude, this is crazy, bro. This is where it all happens. This is actually crazy. My, like, friends are growing up around me, and I'm, like, witnessing people getting married and, like, being these, like, super gnarly, like, relationships.
Yeah.
It's honestly
weird.
trippy as fuck.
Oh, it's kind of scary. Because I've realized, like, when I was, like, 18, what was I doing? I was coaching wrestling and living with Bobby. You know, like, I was waking up in the morning and pouring myself a shot of vodka and listening to music and cleaning the house the whole day while you went to school. Like, what? I wasn't doing anything, and now it's like I'm getting older, and I'm like, regardless of if I got married or if I moved or anything, like, everyone around me has moved away or is growing up. They're getting their careers. I'm like, the whole, like, hey, let's go, like, do nothing and just get drunk all day long. It's not a thing anymore. And if it is, it's not going to be a thing for much longer. So I'm like, me and Hunter were talking, we're like, we want to get, like, a place together before we have to grow up completely.
Okay.
So we're talking about that. That's in the works. Like, if we could get a place for, like, the next... Because my plan is she's going to the physical therapy program in 2 years. Or at least, hopefully, if she gets in. And I'm going to follow her. So...
And just go wherever the road takes you. Yeah. Dang, bro.
So that's when, like, I would love to get a house with, like, Hunter, another
for a little
person.
bit.
Just have a year or two of just, like, last hoorah kind of thing. Like, let's just have fun again and be kids and then grow up.
Damn, that's kind of sad. Yeah. It's like, dude, the thing is, my thing, like, I see exactly what you just said. And the thing of, like, the first thing that you described, how you're like, oh yeah, like taking a shot, cleaning the house, and just kind of like chill party mode. For me, I want to do that again at some point in my life when I don't need to work anymore, I don't need to do school anymore, and I have money to do that type of shit. Mm-hmm. And, like, I kind of want to, like, do that in, like, segments of my life. Not 24/7, but, like, a year of living that lifestyle again, or, like, 3 months of living that lifestyle again. Just, like, big kick and big posted, and then, like, start grinding again. Yeah. And then take, like, another, like, break. And I'm not saying anytime soon because I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but 5 years from now, like, who knows, that lifestyle might be a thing again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to kiss that lifestyle goodbye just yet because we're, 23.
Yeah, we're still really young.
Yeah, we are.
Like, we're still freaking kids.
Yeah.
Ask even a 30-year-old. They'd be like, dude, they're kids. Like, they don't know what life is yet. They're 23,
Yeah.
Like, what have we had to do in our lives? Like, not a lot. We went to high school, college, hung out with friends, like, did random stuff. Like, we're phasing into the new, but we're not there yet. Like, we still have a few years. Like, think about people that are like 26, 27. They're still partying every day. It's like a lot of it just depends on how you want to lead your life. Like, I feel for the most part that you can live the life you want to live. Like, if you want to do that, you'll do it. It just literally depends on if you want to.
For you, or like in a few years from now, do you see that lifestyle going completely away?
Yeah.
forever.
I think that lifestyle, yes. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm gonna have a boring life and like I'm gonna sit at home and work all day and be whatever. But I think the whole like freedom of being young and dumb will definitely go away for me, and I would say at a minimum of 2 years, because like it's just a lot different, you know.
Life for sure feels a lot different with all the homies like having moved away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in a fuck ton of people. Like
they all did.
Our group used to roll so deep, I feel like.
Yeah. We were always doing something, and like all of them that moved to Santa Barbara, like those were the only people that got me out of the house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I wasn't easy to get out of the house, and I really regret that. But without them, I'm like, what do I do? I go to work, I hang out, I talk to my girlfriend. It's like, I love it. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not the same old, like, youthful bliss of, I'm going to wake up today, I don't know where I'm going to end up tonight, you know? Like, am I going to end up on the floor? Am I going to end up in a random, you know, like, where am I going to end up tonight? What is going to happen?
Do you remember that one time we like took edibles or some shit and we went to Blaze Pizza and Hunter was like doing sign language to somebody?
I don't know if I
Were you there?
I don't think I was there for that.
Okay, never mind.
Was that when you guys took the like really potent one?
I don't know. I want to say we were in high school, maybe in freshman year of Cuesta.
Yeah, I don't think I was there for that.
You must have not been. You would have known exactly what I was talking about.
I think the only time I've ever been in the room with you guys when you've taken edibles was when, I don't even know if you were there, when we were at the Bobby's house in Morro Bay.
Yeah.
The first one.
Feeding Frenzy.
With the, yeah. And you guys took the like 500 milligram each edible or something like that. And I don't know if you were there, but they like all died. And I had left that night, but I think that's the only time I've ever been a part of like, or I wasn't even a part of it, but I was just there when it was happening.
It's funny, you've been around on some very important developmental nights that have happened through our history where like if those nights did not happen, we would not be who we are and where we are today. Yeah. For many reasons, and I don't know necessarily why, but I remember you've always have kind of been there, bro. You know,
yeah.
Like you've always have been a great person that's like been there to like just like be a part of like our history and like friendship. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like I've always been kind of the calm to the storm. You know, like. Between everyone that's like freaking batshit crazy in our friend group, I'm kind of just like there,
yeah,
and like create some reason, you know, between everyone as to like why we shouldn't do certain things, or like, you know, this and that. But yeah, I just kind of like always there, kind of like spectating you guys. Like, if you look at, like, anyone in the Olympics, it would be a very strange argument to have to say that any single person in the Olympics that's done well just doesn't want to lose. Like, in order to do good in the Olympics, you have to want to win more than anything else in life. Because if you just play to not lose, you're not going to make it anywhere. You have to play to win, you know, depending on what you're doing, of course. But for the most part, like, if you want to get like a really good job and your mentality is like, I just don't want to not get the job, you're not going to get the job. Your mindset is like, I'm going in there, I'm getting the job, you know, like this is going to happen, because if you don't, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think it's kind of, it's a strange thing. And I think it's very like starts when you're young, depending on like life events. Like you could, part of your life could be traumatic, so all you're doing is you're just trying to survive. And some people like Joe, that whole family's just freaking like Vikings, you know, they just go out there, they win, they conquer. Like that is their mentality. But some people just are just trying to survive, and I think that's where you find that line in difference between people.
Do you like having a girlfriend? Obviously, you must.
Yeah.
Would you feel lonely right now if you did not have a girlfriend in your life?
Definitely.
Because you guys talk every day?
Yeah.
On the phone or text?
Both.
Both?
Mm-hmm.
How often do you guys see each other?
Once a week.
During the week or the weekends?
The weekend. I would say out of the 7-day week, I probably see her upwards of like 3 days a week. Yeah.
3 days a week?
Mm-hmm.
How?
Just Friday to Sunday or Monday.
Oh, okay. So like not 3 different drives, but like one drive, 3 days.
We switch off. So like every week we'll switch. I'll go there, she'll go here.
Well, and that's not even a long drive, really.
No, it's 2 hours, especially when you stay there for a few days. It's like insignificant. But early on, I used to always have to come home. So I would drive there. We'd spend the whole day together. It'd be like 7 or 8 because I didn't want to leave. And the next thing I noticed, I'm like swerving on the road trying to get home, you know?
Wait, why?
Just being so tired.
Why'd you have to go home?
I couldn't stay over there.
Oh, her parents were like, fuck this guy.
Yeah. Well, it was just like so new. It was like, they're not like, oh, hello, we have a room for you.
Yeah.
You know, so, because she's only 19.
Got it.
So it's kind of like, it used to be a little like interesting. Now it's just kind of like our parents have just kind of accepted it.
They're a little sussed on who you are and why you're there.
They probably were in the beginning, not anymore. They love me now, but it's definitely different. I mean, you know me, I was pretty against it for a long time.
About being in a relationship?
Yeah.
Why were you against it?
I don't know. I think being real, I've had a lot of craziness happen in my life. Like a lot of very like traumatic moments in my childhood. So I think it kind of led to this like, I'm not going to trust anyone. I don't want to be with anyone. Like, I don't want any intimacy with anyone. Like, I'm just going to do my own thing, live my own life because I can control me. And then once I met her, it kind of just like changed. It gives you, it like, you will find somebody, I'm assuming, not for sure, but you'll probably find somebody that will definitely change. Like it's very cliche to say, but it will change everything. Like you'll get to the point where you meet someone and everything you thought, like how you thought things were gonna go, and like the things you think like, oh, I'm gonna find a girl that's gonna be like this, or this is how my life is gonna be. You're gonna find somebody that's probably not gonna fit that mold, but it's gonna fit a better mold, and then it's gonna be like, what the hell is happening? Like, where's my life going? But whatever's happening, I'm happy with, because like I don't care where I go as long as we just do it together, kind of thing.
Do blessings show up in disguise?
What do you mean?
Like, it sounds like you were almost blessed with a gift.
Yeah.
Of her presence.
I feel that way.
You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen you like this before. Being in a relationship, talking about marriage, like, you know, you're 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, dude, you're, like, marriage is something.
Yeah, and I still, like, unbiasedly, I think it's kind of questionable at best, getting married. But I think at the same time, when you guys share similar values and you both want similar things, then it just kind of happens. Like both of our families, like we're both like religious, and it's like it's usually the center point of getting married.
Religion?
Yeah, I mean that's basically why it's a thing. So it's like if you're not religious, you might get caught up in the like, I want to get married, because that's what a lot of people do. But like a lot of people are like, I'm gonna get married so I can like we can unify under God kind of thing. And so it's like I guess I agree with that being from a religious standpoint, but also from being like purely like a reasonable like rational human, I think it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely scary to be like, yeah, I'm plan on being with this person for the rest of my life. But like I said, you'll find somebody eventually. Unless you just live a life that's like fun and craziness, then that's fine too. But if you do, you probably will find somebody that will be like, okay, I don't really care about partying anymore. You know, I'd rather like go get ice cream at like 10 o'clock at night and talk about something stupid for 2 hours.
Okay.
You know, it's very strange, especially you. You're a very like passionate interpersonal kind of person that's like, I want to like get to know you. I want to like learn about you. I want to like enjoy the moment with you. And seeing that you're like so extremely like that, I think you'll find somebody that'll like hit that note and you'll just go with it. Most likely. Like I said, not everyone does, but I feel like you want that for your life.
Dude, I feel like mine and yours relationship has always been a very interesting one. Like, really fucking interesting. Like, weirdly odd.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I look at you and other people that we hang out with, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. Like, they hang out together. Like, this is what they talk about. And then there's just, like, we're friends, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Very randomly.
Very randomly. But I think we get along for the most part, right?
We definitely... I think why we had became so close in the past and, like, are good friends in general is because I'm very, like I said, I'm very restless. I'm always thinking about stuff. And, like Hunter said, you're like a, like, wide-eyed child. Like, you're just so excited with, like, the world. Like, anything new that comes your way, you don't see it as like, oh, there's a balloon out there. You're like, oh my god, like there's something floating in the sky. Like, it's this like moment every time something happens. So like when I talk about something, you take everything I say as like, oh, that's cool, you know, because I spend so much time like thinking about things. Like, I'll have random thoughts, and then like I'll talk to you, and then you'll kind of like run with it, and it'll create something new, like a new way of thinking for you, or something that's exciting, and then it just bounces back and forth.
Can we talk about some crazy shit right now? Just like some deep shit. Crazy shit or deep shit or crazy deep shit.
Sure. Like what?
I don't know. You say something. Because you really are like a big book of knowledge and thoughts.
Yeah, I like to think. I guess a way I could start this off, if you want to go this direction, is I feel like in my life, a lot of the times I've been somebody that people will go to be like, hey, some weird shit's going on. What do you think about it? You know, I've always thought in my life, I'm like, I'd love to be like a life coach or something. Yeah. I don't even know how you would do that, or if that's even actually a job. But I think it'd be, part of me is like, I think it'd be really cool, because there was a time period, like when I was growing up, where like just nonstop craziness was happening. Like, I was moving all over. There was just a lot of crazy stuff going on. And it got to the point where, as I was growing up, like, I knew some of the things, some of the events that I've seen and the things I've had to deal with in my life were going to come back and get to me. And so I've spent like years and years and years and years, like every time anything ever happens or I feel anything ever, I'm like, why? Like, why is that happening? So I've spent so much time reflecting that when I see people go through things, I'm like, that's why. So I feel like just, I guess that's a direction, you know, just having, I guess, learning like why, just seeing people's distress and seeing like the sadness that people go through and trying to be a light if possible in that.
It's important for sure. Yeah, I mean, you want everybody. It's important for everybody to be thriving around you, just so like the the vibe that they put out, it's gonna affect other people.
Yeah, and I think people go through a lot. Like, I think it's really easy to be like, oh, I've had this really hard life, so like the world owes me. The world doesn't owe you shit.
That's just life.
Nobody owes you shit. Everyone's gone through something. Like, there's not a lot of people that you can talk to that's like, oh, I grew up, I went to school, I had good parents, I got a good job, and I died. You know, like, that's not normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's like Disney story, you know? Like, growing up in my life, basically, just like when I was young, I lived in Los Osos, and then it got to the point where I don't want to get too deep into it just because it's kind of family stuff, but basically my dad kind of went off the rails and like all this crazy stuff started happening, and I'm like, you know, through my life, I'm like, why did this have to happen? And then I went further on. You knew me in high school. I got really sick. I was 120 pounds. I'm 200 pounds right now.
You're 200?
I'm 208 pounds right now. I was 120 pounds in high school when I got sick.
Fuck.
So I was really sick. Like, I got celiac and I was just super sick. And I got to the point where, like, genuinely, when I was wrestling, if I wasn't wrestling, I think wrestling is the reason I'm here today.
Why?
Because I was so depressed. I don't think I would have ever killed myself, but part of me is like, I was so sick and so distressed and so like in despair with this life that like the only reason I woke up in the morning was like, I'm gonna go get my ass kicked in wrestling. Like, I'm gonna go, like, I'm gonna drill, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna practice, even if I fail, even if I lose every match. Like, I'm gonna, like, at least I have something to do. Like, there's been mornings where it took me 10 minutes to get out of bed because I was so sick, you know? And so when I look at, like, it's sad, but I'm like, I don't really care because I'm like, everyone has shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, doesn't mean I need to ask for a golden ticket, you know? I just want to spread the love, and so when I see people that are struggling, I'm like, how can I help you? How can we fix this? How can I, like, what can I say to you that's going to change something for the better? Like, every time I meet someone new, I ask them, like, what do you want to do in life? Because everyone's like, oh, I want to be like I want this. I want to be like a banker. I'm like, no, you don't. Nobody wants to be a banker. Like, you want to, like, sing or, like, dance like a princess or something, you know? Like, you want to do something crazy with your life, because I genuinely feel like just about everyone has something to offer. Like, if you really sat down and, like, put on paper, if I could have any life, what would I want to be? And you write it down, and then you crumple it and say, well, that's never going to happen. That's what 99% of the people do. So every time I meet someone new, I'm like, how can I at least get you to, like, think? Like, maybe this is possible. There's no reason it's not. Like, there's fucking people that go to the moon. You know, like, you can dance for a living. Like, you can become an artist. Like, you know, like, there's some crazy jobs out there. So, I don't know. I feel like just going through the craziness and stuff like that.
Dude, doing anything creative is fucking dope.
Yeah, me and Hunter are going to start making songs.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What type of songs?
Who knows?
Okay.
I have some stuff in the works, and then I'm going to start creating stuff. So once he's done with school, we'll start putting them out.
And dude, that's something that we've always have like wanted to do. Because like we've never done it, but I feel like now more than ever, we're getting close. I just invested into some, like, I finally now have like a mic and interface, like a laptop to do it on.
Oh,
like,
this is all this setup right here, huh?
No, this is for podcasting.
Oh, yeah, that's
I have a mic on the ground over there, actually.
What kind?
I haven't even, like, I've just been so busy, I haven't even, like, opened it out of the box yet.
Oh, that's dope.
But we're gonna, because, again, like, I know Hunter has some dope shit inside of him, and we need to bust it out of him.
Yeah.
And then there's other people, there's also a couple other rappers that I really want to, like, get in touch with. It's just, like, yeah, I have been literally researching you know Ableton, right?
Hmm?
Okay, I've been watching hella Ableton tutorials, just like, okay, this is how you do that, and like, dude, I wanna be able to bring them over and like make fucking music.
That'd be
Because
cool.
dude, they're so good, dude. Hunter's good at rapping. We've heard him. He really is in touch with a side deep down there somewhere. You know what I mean?
He's very, very like, he's so off his rocker that like he can do shit that like nobody else has done. Like he's so good. Like the way he like words things is like, he's so far from being normal that's like his blessing. You know? That's his like, that's what he's been given. Like I can't do that. I make a lot of music. Like that's a huge part of my life. And I like a lot of the stuff I write. Like I would say in total between me and my friend that I work with sometimes, I'd probably put out like 20 or 30 songs. And it's like, I like them. There's a lot of them that I think are great. But like I'm like, dude, I want Hunter on this. Because like he can do shit like I can't think of. Yeah. You know, like he's doing math I've never heard of. Yeah. You know, kind of stuff. And he's just like makes weird sounds. And like he reminds me of like Brock Hampton a little bit, like the sounds they make and the voices they do and the creative like rapping and like just they're just putting shit on paper that's just them, and he reminds me of that a lot. So I want to work with him because I've spent a lot of time learning on putting songs together. So, and he doesn't really do that. He's just so damn good. He just hops on the mic and just flows with the beat. So I'm like, it'd be really cool to set him up with everything, get him going.
It's crazy because there's a lot of people that promote their own shit and like tell people about it and like send it off to people. But the thing is with Hunter, he's never done any of that. He's never said, "Hey guys, look, I rap." Yeah. He's just that hard. Like he's literally that fucking hard.
I told him today, I'm like, dude, if we genuinely like we put out some music that we liked and then we're like, this is like the song, like let's go through like 30 songs and find like 7 that we love. I'm like, with the right amount of luck, one of those songs is doing good. Because like he's talented, and I feel like I can put beats and stuff together and like come up with choruses and stuff like that. So I'm like, it would be really fun. So that's the goal.
And you definitely have that side to you as well. Yeah. Like you're definitely like an artiste. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm extremely right-brained. I don't do structure. You know, like I need to like feel things to do them. I need to like, it's like an emotional connection to everything. Yeah. You know, like that's why I love doing like card tricks and stuff, because it's not like, yes, you practice the same stuff over and over, but it's like a matter of like, how do you flick the card? Yeah. You know, it's not just turning a card over, it's creating an effect so that way when people see it, they're like, oh damn, this guy's freaking good. What is he doing? You know? Yeah. It's like just creating a story.
Have you ever done a podcast?
No. I've done YouTube videos and stuff, but I've never done a podcast.
Isn't it trippy to think about at some point in our life, this is going to like go on YouTube and like our friends are going to like see you on YouTube and they're going to be like, yo, like that's Mark. Like I may or may not click on this video and like listen to what Mark has to say. Like that's trippy, dude. Welcome to fucking modern day technology.
For like under $1,000.
Yeah.
For like better than anything 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like you can get like this mic alone. I don't want to say this because I'm not completely confident in saying this, but I would say that this mic alone is better than probably anything they had in the 90s. And this is a $100 mic. An $80 mic. Like I had a mic like this.
Yeah.
You know, that computer, I don't know what it is, but it was probably not that crazy. And it's like, you can do whatever the hell you want on it. Like you might not be able to like make a Marvel movie on it, but like you can do a lot of stuff on it, you know. That camera, that's I think it's like $1,100 camera.
Something like that.
That thing's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like you can do anything on that. You can shoot weddings. Like you can shoot videography for weddings. Like you can do anything on that camera. That camera's really nice. And for $1,200 is crazy. Like you could do anything with that camera. You could do anything with the setup. You could literally make music and make a music video.
Yeah.
And it be just about perfectly professional if you knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of them use obviously really nice stuff, but like I said with lenses, like, yes, you go for the better stuff because you get 10% better, but in the long run, it's about how good you are with it.
Yeah.
You know, like some of my best photos, or at least some of my favorite photos, were shot with my $200 camera. I have a $2,000 camera, and like, yes, the photo itself looks better, kind of, but like, it's about how you use it. So it's cool that technology today has allowed us. We can do whatever we want.
What do you normally... So I haven't seen you in so long, but what do you what do you do? Like, what's your typical day? Like, what are your hobbies? You know, you're obviously going to the valley here and there, but like, I haven't seen you in a fucking while.
I worked at the gym for a year, a little over that, and then I left recently, a month ago, two months ago, because I just felt like garbage. I was just emotionally out of it. I hated that job. It was a great job. It wasn't for me.
Why? Like, you said it was a great job, but you also weren't there emotionally.
I am very I like the freedom of doing stuff, and I hated having to not be able to do things because I had like a certain boss or a certain this or that, or like I couldn't get something covered, or there's just things about the job specifically to that job that I didn't love. I didn't love the work itself. You know, like, it just brought me down. I got to the point where I'm like, I'm just not happy here. So I left. So right now I'm not doing shit. But I'm back to like, I'm going to find a job. And I want to like get a job that I actually like, or that's good.
So you wanted to like go do things elsewhere, and you just couldn't because you had to like go into work?
It was just a lot. It was just like, it wasn't even work that I was like, I don't want to go in, but like whatever. It was just like every day I'm like, I can't, like, you know, like, this is not, I can't get anywhere with this job. I don't enjoy it, and I'm just not happy anymore. So I'm like, I'm going to take a month off, 2 months off, do a lot of photography, make music, try something that I could like do on my own. Like, can I start like making money off of photography? You know, can I put more into my music? Can I, like I said earlier, I want to make a tea. Like, I want to try everything that I can before I get caught in the whole like, I gotta go work at a warehouse from 9 to 5, you know, or I gotta go like do this. Like, obviously, like, you can build your way up, you can get better jobs, but in the meantime, like, I'm not working at Tesla tomorrow, you know, like, I didn't set myself up to do that. So I'm like, but I am pretty driven, and I'm like, I want to work for myself. So right now I'm like, how can I do this? How can I figure this out?
Dude, I want to work for myself, but I'm like so quote unquote like brainwashed in terms of like, I'm like almost scared to make a move like that where I just like quit working for other people, you know what I mean? Like, in my mind, that's the only way that I can like make it, is like working for other people right now.
Yeah, and potentially right now it might be like that, but I think a lot of times what I've told a lot of people is I'm like, I know life kind of feels like a game. Like, it doesn't really feel that serious, you know? Like, what if we, like we said earlier, what have we done the last 20-something years? We haven't done shit. We've done, like, partied and hung out with each other. Like, but you're going to get to the point where, like, do you want to be 50, 60 years old and be like, I never got where I wanted to be? You know? Like, Like, I feel like that's a genuine question, because, like, anyone could introspectively look at it and be like, holy shit, like, am I doing what I want to do in my life? Because this is my only life, you know? We don't get another life. There's no, I'll try again. Like, genuinely, do you want to look at your life and be, like, 50, 60 years old and be like, damn, I gave up on the podcast when I shouldn't have? You know, like, not that you would, but just, like, you know, and just to think about, like, anything, like, anyone out there, like, if you're thinking about anything in life, like, yes, it's very serious. Like, I need to get a job. I need to do this. But, like, a lot of it is, like, what do you want to do? Like, nobody knows what's good for you. That needs to be said. Like, there's people that can come into your life and be like, you should do this. Like, let's follow this path. Let's try, you know, like, let's go to college. Go do this. Like, because if they see you struggling or whatever. But, like, every single other person in this whole entire world is not you. So they don't know what's best for you. And I think if you're going out and selling drugs and doing crazy shit, then people have the right to be like, hey, get your shit together, you know? But for the most part, if you're doing what you want to do, like, don't ever let anyone tell you that you should do something different, because they're settling for the life that they wish they wouldn't be settling for, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like, that's how I look at my life. I'm like, yes, I'm not doing a lot right now, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm doing more than a lot of people because I'm trying something. If I fail all the way till I'm 30 and then go work the warehouse job I would have got 10 years ago, I'm in the same place as I would have been, but at least I tried. At least I can look back at when I'm old and be like, I tried, I didn't succeed, but at least I fucking tried.
That's hard, you know? Because you do have a point, like while you're young, fresh, and energized, you might as well do some crazy ballsy type moves, because at the end of the day, like, when you are 35, 40, you can go back to the 9 to 5 if everything else did not work out.
Yeah, I mean, how many people do that? Like, how many people do you see that just sit behind a computer or do this and that? I'm like, in my eyes, like, you're doing something that nobody else is doing. I don't see anybody else working as much as you do and then say, I'm going to go find people to do a podcast with because I fucking love it. You know, like, I enjoy it, and, like, I don't care if I get anywhere with it. Like, I don't care anything like this. I'm just going to do it because I like it, and hopefully, I'm assuming you're like, hopefully it could grow and get to a point where, like, I could probably do this, you know? Like, this could be a fun avenue in my life, and not a lot of people do that. Not a lot of people do that at all. They go to work and they're upset that they have to work a job they don't want to work, and then do nothing that they want to do because they've been beaten down by society.
Why do you think that is? So many people, like millions of people, can do the same thing every day, like the 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
I think we're told from very young that that's how life is. You know, like, people's biggest limiters are themselves. How many years have people said, nobody's ever going to jump this high? Nobody's ever going to do this. This isn't physically possible. There's a person out there that sat in a cave and did breathing techniques for like 30 years, and they did a study on him, and he could control the temperatures in his body, and he could make one hand, like, he could move the heat throughout his body because he had such control over his body. And I'm like, if people have had that kind of dedication to anything and stopped listening to this, like, societal norm, we would be much further along in humanity, because people would not be slaves to their jobs. They would do stuff they want to do, you know? And I think genuinely, like, it starts, like, think about when, I mean, I don't know your life, but think about, like, when you were young, it was probably like, I gotta go to school, I gotta go to work, I gotta do this. Like, you know, if anyone, like, I told somebody this the other day, because they're like, oh my God, they're like, everybody just hounds me about going to school. Like, I don't want to go to school. Like, I don't want to do that in my life. And I'm like, you got to consider that everything we have in life, everything, every grocery store, every single time you leave your house and go to a store, it's pretty damn likely that the reason that store is there is not because somebody went to college. Right? Like, no, like, somebody didn't start a liquor store because they went to college and got a degree in God knows what. You know, they had a dream and did it. You know, a lot of businesses are started. A lot of things are started because somebody said, fuck the normal. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm good at this and I love it, so I'm going to do it. But I think that's why people get stuck.
Yeah. That was a good response. That was a super good response. It is, yeah. Do you think that there's an evil force out there in terms of like people, like a very small group that kind of runs everything and has the whole world and society working the way it does for their own, you know, personal well-being, you know, like keep people dumb, stupid, fat, like on the couch working 9 to 5, like never let them branch out again? Or do you think we are the people and we're the reason that has happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to answer this, but I think how I guess would kind of interpret that question or respond to that question would be like, I feel like we're not set up to succeed, and then we're left on our own. Like, we are given an island with like one pistol, some firewood, and like a case of water with 100 people on the island, and we're all trying to figure out how the fuck to survive and get away. Like, think about everyone you meet, or a lot of people you meet, especially if you go towards like LA, everyone's gonna use you for something. Because everyone's trying to get ahead, because we've been set up in a society that the only way out is if we can succeed in the way we're being told to. You know, so I feel like in a lot of ways we're set up to fail. Because if everyone wins, we all lose.
Is that the truth? If everybody wins, everybody loses?
I feel
Why?
Just because, like, if everyone's succeeding, it just doesn't really work. Like, you can never really have everything. Like, if everyone's rich, no one's rich. You know, like that. Like, things always cancel themselves out. Like, think about if there's a president, right? Say like say a dictator. Say you take a dictator, right? If every single person was a dictator, then that like you're not going to get anywhere. Because if I'm trying to control you and you're trying to control me, we're not going to get anywhere. And that's basically how life works. You know, so you're just set. Like, not everyone can be ahead. There has to be failures in people for people to get ahead, or else nobody would ever get ahead, because you'd just be stuck. You know, like, you would never become successful if everyone was successful. We would just revert back to where we are. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, like, if everyone was rich, nobody's rich. So now everybody is just back to being poor in a way. Like, you know, if everybody has everything, then there's no relevance to making it anywhere in life.
You're saying there's got to be some sort of like give and pull.
Yeah, there has to be. It's the yin and yang of life.
And there's success due to other people's failures.
100%. Like, there's a guy that talked about how life is the way life is because of the negatives. Like, if you have a book, you don't have... There's no words without the pages, but you don't think about the pages. You don't care about the paper. You think about what's on the pages, but you can't think about what's on the pages without the paper. Yeah. So, like, you can't think about the success stories and the good in life if there's no negative.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to look at it. Do you ever think, like, think about how many people are, like, rich and famous and everybody looks up to them when they probably aren't cool.
They're not, like, they're not special. Like, I hate to break it to people, but, like, just about everyone is, like, you're not special. I think everybody has their own place in the world, but, like, there's people out there. The current max deadlift is 1,100 fucking pounds. That's a special motherfucker. You know, like, there's certain people that I think can find their way in life or become, like, hey, I made Amazon, you know? But I wouldn't say he's necessarily, like, that's a special motherfucker. I think he just did something special. You know, like I at least that's kind of how I see it.
Dude, I think I might be a little biased, but I think the people that come on this podcast are like way doper than like a bunch of like rich and famous people.
Yeah, I would say
but
so.
I'm biased, you know, like these are the people I'm hitting up to come on, you know.
We are real people.
You guys just say so much more stuff.
Yeah.
Way more stuff.
And we don't care. Like,
you guys talk a different way too. Mm-hmm. You guys don't. Yeah, you guys talk in a completely different way than the outsider olds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The outsider old is like people not even thinking for themselves, and like they think that they're cool. You know what I mean?
It's because they're just following and doing stuff. You know, like especially like if you're like an attractive, famous person. Like, sadly, most attractive people, depending on a lot of factors, kind of, like, super attractive people, like, certain people in that, like, upper echelon of, like, beauty, they don't need to be smart or good at anything. Not saying that they're not. Like, I would say probably a lot of them are, but there's a lot of them that, like, yes, they're, like, great to look at, but there's nothing to them. That's why, like, for us, like, these people are fucking... They have, like... mansions that you can't even imagine. So like, why do you need a personality at that point? Like, if I can be like, look through the internet and be like, I can literally buy anything I want. I feel like at some point, like, I dream and think of things because I don't have, you know? Like, how many things do you dream and think about because you don't have? But when you can become rich and famous, all you think and dream about is becoming back to this life. Yeah. Because you can't go out and, like, have an opinion anymore. Because if you say anything ever, there's a huge population that are going to shut you down for it. Yeah. So I think that's why you kind of, like, people like us are just actually interesting because we live the hard life.
A normal person.
Yeah. We have stories. I mean, not that they don't, but we have stories. You know, we have crazy shit. Like, that happens to us every day, you know?
If you could buy anything right now, would you buy some crazy shit? Like, let's say you had $2 million. Would you buy anything special? And, like you can't invest it. You can't put it in your bank. Like, you have to buy something.
Like, one specific thing? Or just I could just buy a bunch of shit?
Like, if you wanted a couple cars, you could buy a couple cars. If you wanted to tour the world, you can go to multiple different places. If you wanted to buy a telescope, you could buy a $2 million telescope.
I see. Ooh. Can it be like does it have to be like a specific object?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I feel like if this applies, I feel like I would buy some kind of giant studio that, like, I could do whatever I wanted. Like, this times, like, 30. I could have, you know what I mean? Like, I could set up whatever the fuck I wanted it. I could set up stuff for a podcast. I could set up anything ever for, like, photography. I could set up, like, literally anything I'd ever want in that studio. If that's a valid answer.
A warehouse.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. And, I mean, honestly, that would be, like, one of my dreams is having a warehouse with, like, my employees that are my homies. Yeah. And it's like no one's over, like, we're doing it for fun and all we fucking do is, like, film skits and movies all day and, like, hella creative, hella, like, production line type shit. And, like, you get, like, it's not really an office job, but nobody's working 9 to 5. It's like, oh, hey, like, we're gonna do Sunday and Friday, 8 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Weird hours, weird location. You just
get the shit done. And
just get the shit done, and, like, that's your job, and you're making, like, 6 figures.
Yeah. And see, that's why I'm, like, looking at stuff like that. I'm like, I see the light in your eyes when you think about things like that. I see that all the time when I ask people, but then it's always the immediate, like, I wish. Stop fucking wishing. You know, like, I don't have a success story to say that, like, oh, look at me. But, like, you gotta have that attitude. Nobody ever fucking made it because they, like, wanted something or they wished for something. You know, unless they got really lucky just about nobody ever got anything out of wishing. Like Walt Disney, he fucking... I don't know the whole story, so don't quote me on this. Yeah. But I do know there's a part where he, like, sold his house. And he lived homeless because he kept trying over and over and over again and kept failing. And people kept rejecting him. And I'm very positive there's a part where he sold his house or something like that. And he just kept trying shit over and over and got to the point where, like, imagine living homeless because you believe in yourself so much. And then he came out with Mickey Mouse, I believe, is what got him successful. That's like, you know, like, if you want a fucking garage or a warehouse of your friends doing shit, like, you gotta work for it, you know? Like, it will happen in your life unless you are really unlucky or you stop trying.
I was gonna say he came up with Mickey Mouse because he's like sleeping on like some cardboard in the corner and there's fucking rats running around and he's like, you fuckers.
Probably, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I get sad when I see people like give up their dreams.
Yeah, dude, it's just scary to commit with them. That's my whole thing, like. And I don't even mean for, like, me doing anything, like, YouTube related. I'm just saying, like if I were to quit my job tomorrow and, like, try and find, like, a better job that suits me better. I'm saying, like, something like that. Like, for me, dude, I get extreme, like, fucking anxiety without, like, job and financial security. Like, dude, moving here from Oregon, I was so fucking, like, afraid to do it. I was like, dude, I don't have a job and I'm, like, borderline broke right now.
No shit.
But obviously, like, I had to pull the trigger to get back to fucking Cali, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And, like, just to get, you know what I mean? And it worked out. Yeah. It fucking worked out because now I have, like, way more money and I'm like making, you know, money. I'm like working. I found a job, like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's sometimes you just have to like take chances. But for me, I was like, dude, like I had a job for a little bit in Oregon, you know, I was going to school. I was like progressing, but like deep down I was like, dude, there's no way I can fucking like live out here like more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But like my biggest thing, I was like, dude, I'm like scared shitless to go to another state right now. Would not, like, I don't have a job set up. Mm-hmm. And it was like fucking COVID, dude. What if I didn't get hired anywhere and I'm like sitting with my thumb up my ass? Like, I need money. Like, I'm one of those people, I'm just like brainwashed. And it's like, dude, I have to work. I have to make money. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And I don't think it's bad. I just think it'll get to the point where are you giving up like everything to live a safe life? You know, and I don't think you're like that. I think a lot of people are like that. And I think some people just don't know how to, like, get out of it. And to be honest, I don't even know if I really know how to get out of it. But the goal is don't stop trying until you do. Because I will forever be haunted by the idea of being old and regretting the fact that I didn't try, you know? So I'm like, if I fail, people fail. Like, it's not, you can't say I'm going to do this and it's going to happen. It's likely that like shit doesn't happen for you, but like it won't happen for you if you don't try, you know? Like I really like the podcast thing you got going on.
Thank you, bro.
I think it's fucking awesome.
Thank you.
And I genuinely, like, when you started it, I saw you like putting out some, and normally people start stuff and they stop. You know, yeah. Like, I knew you worked a lot, especially, but then I saw you continue to do it, and I was like, that's fucking awesome. And, like, I was, like, as a friend and a fellow human, I was genuinely proud of you, because I'm like, I don't know anyone else in my life that is trying, doing shit they want to do, you know? Like, you're not having a job that you hate and sitting there being mad because you can't do anything, or you're not... Oh, I'm not doing this. I'm not, you know, like you don't give a shit. You're working, you're making money, and you're doing something. So I definitely
cheers, bro.
I commend you on that.
More to come, more content, more people. It's kind of crazy with this, dude, because it's like it's just kind of nonstop. Like there's like yeah, I'm I've just been talking to hella people, and I'm already like networking and shit for like the month of June. You know what I mean? Like this has been a really fun growing experience for me because I've just got to kick back, do this on the side, like as literally a hobby, and just like meet people, talk to people, and just learn. Like I'm learning right now. I always learn something from every podcast, no matter how it goes. You know, how a person thinks, what a person says, how that impacts me. Just people, everyone has a different story. That's why I think that's why I think this is so like fun to do. Everybody has a different fucking story. Really.
They have a full life. Like there's a word that describes, I believe it's Sonder, that basically says, like, you know, when you're driving around and you see like hundreds of cars drive by you, and you get hit with the realization that every single car you see is a whole entire life. Like when you're driving, you just think of it as, oh, there's just cars. Like that's why part of me is I feel like why people get such road rage is they disconnect from the humanity side, and they're like, I fucking hate this car, move. Like you know, like they don't care if it's a person. They don't think of it like that. But like there's literally a word for it, like the realization that every single car you see is a whole life. Your whole entire life is the same thing, but for every single car you see, but it doesn't feel like it because you just see hundreds of cars pass you every day. Thousands of cars, and that's thousands of lives, you know. And I think that's fucking trippy.
That is, you got me tripped out right now. Like multiple lives compacted in one car. Yeah,
and it's like when we would like think about when we would all like there'd be like 6 to 8 people like climbing in a car, and like if anybody saw us, they'd be like, "Oh, this is freaking kids." But like every single one of us has had like a full ass life to the point where we're at now. Like we all have our own story, and it's like that's why for me at least I try my hardest to look at people as like a life and a story, and not just this asshole in front of me that's pissing me off. you know? And I think if people would try and do that a little bit more, I'm not great at it all the time, but I think if people consciously try to do that, we might be a little bit of a better place.
Dude, manifestation is a real thing.
What do you mean?
And I do apologize if I've said this before on like a different podcast, and I'm pretty damn sure I did on like a recent one. I try and like not repeat the same things that I've like said in the past and shit, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes you just have to like re-bring something up.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But like, for like, dude, there was like a long fucking stretch where I was just like so negative, like extremely negative. And, like, to be honest, I feel like I'm not fully out of it, but I've made, like, a giant step, like, in a positive direction. And, like for example, there was, like, Evan and Vince got this one, like, hot girl's number from, like, downtown or some shit. And she was, like, older. She was, like, mid 25, 26, some shit like that. So she was, like, years, like, older than us. And then they hit her up to, like, come over one night. And then I was with my homie Dre, who I think you've met before. Yeah. And then I think Dre, like, we were, like, parking here. I was, like, coming in to grab something or some shit like that. And then Dre was like, oh, yeah, like, they were telling me they, like, hit up that one girl, and she said she was going to come over. And then I was like, no, like, she's not going to come over. She's just saying that. And, like, unfortunately, I was right. Like, she was just saying, she was fronting, acting like she's going to come over. I was like, dude, like, she's super hot. Like, because I saw her. Like, I was like, yeah. In my head, I was just like, she's just one of those people, like, just proving a point and just like giving false hope and just like blatantly lying, which I think's fucked up. Like either come over and say, put your money where your mouth is, or just say like, oh no, sorry, I'm busy. Like no point in lying and like flex. Like she was flexing, you know what I mean? And then long story short though, like Dre looked at me and he was like, dude, like don't say that. Like that's fucked up. Like why even like say that negative energy? And then I was like, no, like, I know that's gonna happen. Because it happened to me, like, a lot, like, this past year. Like, not in that moment when that conversation happened, but, like, months and months and months ago. Like in, like, 2020 type shit, you know what I mean? So, like, I think part of that baggage and, like, negative energy, I was just kind of, like, still, like, feeding off it, and, like, other things were going on. But, yeah, she didn't come over, and, like, a couple months later, we were on a camping trip, and then with Dre, I started asking Dre about manifestation. And then he gives me, like, a fucking, like, we're, like, hungover, dehydrated, like, not in SLO County, like, somewhere else. Like, so we're in a different setting, different location. And he gives me a whole backstory on manifestation and, like, what it means and shit. And, like, immediately that story popped in my head when he was like, oh, yeah, like, Evan and Vince said that, like, really hot girls that they got their number, she's gonna come over and shit. And then it's made me think of that story and how immediately I was just like, no, she's not. Like, she's fronting, like, me just kind of, like, saying no and giving, like, just saying that negative energy. And I looked at Dre and I was like, yeah, unfortunately I was right and she didn't come over. But, like, why the fuck would I even say that? Yeah. Like, why the fuck would I say this hot girl's not going to come over? Like, that's being negative for no fucking reason. Like, I swear to God, like, why, like, there was no point in me saying that, and, like, why would I even do that? And I kind of had a moment, and, like, keep in mind, like, I gave you a quick story. Like, the conversation probably ranged, like, 10 to 20 minutes, some shit like that, and there was, like, other, like, side stories going on and stuff. I'm just giving you, like, the main kind of stretch. But pretty much, like, I kind of took that example and just, like, story and conversation that I had, and just kind of almost realized I was doing that with a lot of other things as well, like thinking negative. It's subconsciously thinking negative as well with, like, a lot of other things, like, throughout my life and, like, what I'm doing currently. And then I was like, dude, like, oh my God, like, I feel like I became such a negative person. And slowly, I feel like I've been being happier and more positive because of the ideas of manifestation and just, like, thinking something great and positive's gonna happen, and just, like, almost summoning, and just giving good heart, giving good energy, being positive, being happy, and just, like, putting good energy into something. Like, yeah, like, that'd be dope if this happens, like, that'd be super sick, and then boom, it happens. And I've just noticed that a lot lately, and, like, it just comes back, that concept of manifestation and just putting, like, good energy, good mojo, and just, like, peace of thought and, like, mind and happiness into, like, these things, you know. And it could be small things, but, you know, like, I feel like recently I've definitely been, like, just a happier person in general, and just, like, way more, like, chill and shit, you know what I mean? But that's a quick little, like, spiel that I wanted to say.
Well, that's good. At least, because, I mean, I only know you as the anything is possible, like, you can be with any girl you want kind of Lazer. So, but I know there's always the ups and downs. It's really easy to get brought down, especially, like, your personality is very... you're very, like, hopeful. Like, you're very, like, you hope for anything more, so to speak. Like, if this, like, I keep using this as an example, if this just started floating off the table, like, you would hope for nothing more. Like, you wish, you want things, you want new adventurous things, you want unexplainable fun things to happen constantly. Yeah. You want something to, like, rattle you around a little bit. So I definitely feel like you being like that, it's really easy to go down the dark road of, like, oh, everything's shitty, like, this sucks, like, that's not gonna happen, because you're just so, like, if you're in a certain way, you put your heart and soul into that. So it's like, it's really hard not to be. I mean, life is, it's hard. You know,
Yeah.
like you go through shit and it's like you could be really happy and something happens to you and now you're just kind of like cynical. You're not you're angry. Like you're just everything. Oh, this fucking sucks. Like nothing great is ever going to happen, you know? So, but I definitely think that like speaking good words and putting out good energy is really important.
Yeah, and just like society can almost be so like rude and awakening sometimes, and like you kind of like, sometimes society can just like rattle you around and leave you like, oh fuck, like this shit sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But being hopeful is just like, that's what everybody needs to do. Just be hopeful. You have to have hope. You really do.
And I think in a really weird way to put this, like, I just imagine like you or people, like they have this shell. Like I imagine like an egg, right? And like if something happens to your life that cracks that shell, you're going to forever, like at least unless you rebuild that shell, every time anything happens to you, it's just going to punch you straight in the face, right? And then you're going to be broken down, you're going to be beat up and sad. But if you can just like pick yourself up and rebuild that shell every time, or get to the point where like that shell doesn't even break anymore, you're driving around, somebody fucking flips you off, you say have a nice day and keep going, instead of it ruining your day and saying I fucking like whatever, you know, like whatever negative thoughts you have or whatever ruins your day. Every time something bad happens to you, like you manifest with that. You're like, but if you can just put up that wall and be like, I'm doing my own thing. I don't care what anybody else does. Like I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to let this bother me.
Yeah.
But the people that are like, everything's going to go wrong, and no matter what I do, something bad's going to happen. It's going to happen. And even if it doesn't happen because you're saying it, you notice it because you think it's going to happen, right? Like, if you think everything's going to be good, even if bad stuff happens to you, you don't even acknowledge it because you're like, well, it's going to be good later on, you know? Yeah. But if all you think everything's going to be bad, the second anything at all bad happens, you think, yep, I'm right. I'm cursed. Like, my life sucks.
And dude, we haven't kicked it in a second because we do talk. Like when we hang out, like we will have conversations similar to this.
Yeah, I don't really feel like we're doing a podcast. I just feel like I'm just here talking to you, drinking a seltzer. Like,
dude, one of my last questions for you, and I'm bummed because like, again, it's annoying because sometimes I'll have to go change the battery and it's like, fuck, dude, I was just an ass mark that. But I had to do with society or some other bullshit, but whatever. One of my last questions, if not the last question that I wanted to ask you or bring up, but I remember this one time, we were actually at the neighbor's house and you were going off about the roads and like how you wanted to go camping one time or not even camping, you wanted to go have a fire on the beach,
a little bonfire,
and you were like, oh, like but they moved the things that you would have the bonfire in the campsite little thing because of COVID, and you were like, why would this get moved because of COVID? This isn't even related to COVID. Like, I was coming out here alone. Yeah. But you had a tangent. You, like, went off.
Yeah, I was very frustrated.
Can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Why were you so angry?
My mindset's... I don't know if my mindset's changed, but I guess my emotional intent is different. Like, I don't really care. I'm not, like, out there to be like, I'm going to be angry about this anymore, because I kind of was. But I was very upset at the time because... around that time, I couldn't really leave my house a lot. So naturally, I was much more like on the edge. And then when I finally started to be able to hang out with people again, I mean, it's not like I'm like, fuck, everything's going on. But I'm like, I started noticing certain things. Like, if you haven't noticed, the way I think is like, things kind of need to make sense. And I started, like, trying to rationalize with the idea of why I couldn't do certain things. And then I started thinking about the fact that, like, most of the rules that were set upon us weren't based on, like, rational thinking. You know? Like, at some point you have to ask the question, like, why can't I have a bonfire with like the person I see all the time when it's completely separated from everyone else and I'm outside? And all these things would like add up to the point where I'm like, I understand the idea of like being careful and like protecting people, but the actual like rational thought that would always come to my head is like, this is a beach in a random ass spot. It was Port Slow. This is not like Cayucas or Morro Bay or like Avila or like something that's like more popular. Like this was like Port Slow and like the random ass area that like not a lot of people go to. And I was just thinking, I'm like, what? Like we're controlled to the point where it's not like, it doesn't matter if things make sense. Like I'm not saying go outside and say fuck the rules and like potentially kill people, but I'm also saying, can like we have some reason, like can we have something that makes sense here, because there's so many contradicting rules and things that were put on us that just didn't really make sense. And I get the idea, people were afraid and there was a lot of things in effect to try and keep people safe, so you kind of have to throw a blanket on everyone and say, don't do this, because we need to get it under control, we need to try and protect people. But it's really hard for me to be like, to follow things or like settle with things that are just kind of crazy. You know, like there's certain things that get to the point where we're not doing this for a reason, we're just saying like, you can't do this, so you might as well not be able to do this too. You know, and I'm like, if I'm going to go to some random ass beach that nobody else goes to, and like, it's a bunch of fucking idiot kids like me too, why am I not allowed to do this? Like, I get it if I'm like walking around, like parading around old people, like sneezing and shit, but if I'm going to like a random beach where no one's at, and you're going to take away the ability to have a bonfire there that's separate from everyone else. I get the idea, maybe it's like, oh, well, we don't want you to gather with people, or you don't want you to do this. But I'm like, they're going to fucking do it anyways. Like, we could still do it at the beach, you know? Like, you can still go hang out at the beach with your friends. So it just, like, it was a rabbit hole of, like, trying to figure out why they could possibly, like, do this with like somebody that sat down and said, we need to get rid of the fire pit because it's gonna protect people. No, the fuck it's not. Like, I've been telling, this has been my motto recently. People are gonna do what they want to do. So if I want to go out and hang out with my friends and endanger the circle of friends that I'm with in a place that's not surrounded by other people, and if it is surrounded by the people that don't care either, who are we protecting here? You know, like we're doing a podcast right now, right? Mm-hmm. You don't give a fuck if you get sick, right? I don't really either, to be completely honest. Like, I mean, I would prefer not to. Yeah. But, like, who are we? We're only endangering ourselves right now. So it's kind of weird. Like, it would be weird. At some point in time, somebody somewhere would have said this is not okay. I think it's a little weird. Because they give you guidelines that say, if you do this, like, you can do this. But then they don't let you do that because they're just basically saying, like, well, you're not going to listen to what we say anyways, so we're just going to tell you not to do anything. Because if you let's quarantine, then you can hang out with certain people that have definitely been quarantining. Who is there to say who's been quarantining? You know, like, if I came here and they're like, oh, you shouldn't be that close without masks. What if I fucking sat in my room for the last 2 weeks like you told me to? Mm-hmm. So it's like the same idea. You know, like, it's just a very, like, weird... It was a very weird subject because it's like nothing really added up. And I said, I kind of get it now. I still think it's a little ridiculous. I get the idea. Like, there's a crazy thing going on. Like, let's not boil it down and find every single little thing we can, like, okay, this is acceptable. This is not acceptable. Let's just cancel everything. At the same time, like, I think a lot of people got really fucked up because of that. You know? And it's like, obviously a lot of people died. It's not really a laughing matter of a problem we've had, but at the same time it's just very strange. It was one of those eye-opening moments where I've never in my life have I felt like, dang, somebody literally is not letting me do anything.
You feel a little gypped without logic.
Yeah, I felt like it was like, fuck any reasoning. It doesn't matter like about your mental health. It doesn't matter about anything. Like, what if I had no family? What if I was the only person in my family? What if I was the only person that I was friends with? Like, anybody except for, like, you guys. Like, I had no family. I had nothing. There was nobody for me to risk, and the only people I hung out with were the same way. It's like, it's just one of those things where it's like, they're going to limit what we can do because we want to keep people safe, you know? But it's just kind of like, I'm not going to say, there's a better way or there's this and that, but at the end of the day, it was kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I feel like I don't want to fucking piss people off, but at the same time, a lot of my viewpoint was like, if you're going to take the risk and go to the beach and take a 1 in a million% chance that you'll get COVID and die, that's your choice. Like, I don't need to do that. Like, I might need to go to the store. I would prefer people to not parade around without masks and do this shit, you know? But, like, if I'm going to go on a hike and there's a % chance that somebody might sneeze and it flies in my mouth, I get sick. And on top of that, the small, tiny % chance that I'm going to die from it. Like, that should be my choice, you know? It shouldn't be somebody saying, hey, we're going to tell you what's best for you. And the only counter argument to that is that people are trying to say they want to do what's best for you, but that's fucking bullshit. Because the only single person that I've ever heard from on how to build up your immune system, on how to fight this and become safe, was from Joe Rogan. I have never heard from a single other source, and I haven't paid a lot of attention, so I'm not giving every other source credit. But the fact that I would have to even go out there and find information about how to keep me and my family safe on certain vitamins and things that you need to do to fight off these things, that's nowhere. So don't tell me that you're doing this for my best. This is to protect me when you're not going to actually do anything to help me protect me because you don't give a shit.
Yeah, and looking at it at a completely neutral standpoint, and I'm sure you know, like, my whole stance on this, but being, like, extremely neutral, that does make sense what you said. They did make, like, these rules and precautions for us, but at the same time, they're not also saying, hey guys, like, here are the rules, here are the precautions, don't do this and this and this. They did that, but there's also not, like, an easy source to, like, hey, also on top of what we said, like, here's some vitamins you should be taking, here's how many minutes out in the daylight we very suggest you to be doing, here's what exercises we prefer you to, here's a hotline so you can call people and ask questions, and here's money that you can have if you aren't able to go into work or some shit. Yeah. They didn't do that. They just kind of said, "Oh, fuck you, deal with it." Yeah. We care about you, but, like, fuck you, deal with it. I like that point because you just said that, like, you figured out ways to prevent it and deal with it from the people who made the rules that didn't provide that information as well.
Yeah, I just thought that was weird. I'm like, you can go down every avenue and say, like, this is why they're doing this. Like, I think you got to consider that the people that are in control of all this are people. You know, yes, it's their job to figure this shit out, but, like, if a tornado hit right now, would you know how to protect yourself? No. So that's kind of the same idea. Like, something crazy happened and they had to fucking scramble to try and figure out what was best for us. And so I'm not gonna say, like, they were doing ill-intended stuff, you know, but it just, in the moment, and especially just some of the things that happened, like, it just kind of had to be done. But I still think a lot of it was a little ridiculous, because it's kind of crazy to, like, say, hey, eat better, but then not tell you how to eat better.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you need to, like, if you go to a doctor and, like, you need to eat better or you're going to die. Like, okay, well, then you should probably give me a direction, because that doesn't mean shit to me. Like, what does that mean? What does eating better mean? How do I lose fat? How do I do this? Like, they tell you, like, what to do, but they don't tell you how to do it. So it doesn't really help anything. So if they would have just said, like, I mean, maybe, I'm sure they have now. I would fucking hope that somewhere in the CDC or something has very specifically said, like, I'm very positive they have at this point. But I would have really hoped that, like, I've still never seen it. Like, I wish that should have been a thing. Because I know, like, yes, like, stay at home, do all this shit. But, like, even doing that is going to give you a higher risk of getting fucked by it. Because now you're not exercising, you're not getting out, you're not getting sun, you're probably not even eating properly. You're not doing anything. You're depressed. You're all these things that are leading you to get fucked up. You know? So I think through all of that, as upset I was at the time, I've kind of reasoned with it and said, okay, I understand. These are people. They did shit. Like, I wouldn't have done a better job. You wouldn't have done a better job. You know, like, this is their job to figure it out. And they know a lot more than we did about it. You know, they were the ones responding to the things that were coming in. Yes, they could have done a better job, but, like, everyone can always do a better job. So I have a little bit of a different standpoint. I think a lot of it was kind of bullshit. But I've kind of come to terms with it, because I'm like, there's nothing. It's relatively back to normal now. Like, I'm back at eating at restaurants. Like, things are open. Like, it definitely sucked, but.
Dude, I say we end on that hot topic right there. Anything else you want to end? Like, anything else you want to say to end on?
I can't think of any, like, topic or anything, but I definitely, like I said earlier, I definitely want to commend you on continuing this, and I hope that you don't stop, unless you're like, one day you're like, I don't really want to do it anymore. But okay. if don't ever be like, it's not getting anywhere, or like,
yeah.
Don't ever fucking do that.
Yeah,
you know, because
sure.
Like I said, you don't want to be 16 and be like, I should never have stopped. I knew a baseball player. He was becoming pro, and to this day he talks about it. You can see the, like, sadness when he talks about how he gave up, and because he started failing, and he gave up because he didn't make it to the team. Could have kept trying, but he gave up, and you can still see the sadness in his heart, because he was like, I can't do it now. He's fucking 40 or 45, you know. He's like, I gave that up, so he's gonna live with that for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And I know you won't. I don't think you will. I just saying, like, if you want to do something, do it. If you're over it, then that's fine, but do it for the right reasons. You know, like, if you're enjoying it and, like, you want to keep doing it, but it gets hard, but, like, you still enjoy it and you have hopes for it, keep fucking doing it.
Let's fucking go, bro. I appreciate you coming on. Shit was really good. Some deep talks with Mark, bro. It's always a really good time.
It's always gonna be like that.
Shit, dude. You killed it, dog. You fucking killed that shit.
Thanks.
Dude.